order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. A motion to approve the agenda. Second. Have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. And that motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes the minutes of the November 9th, 2022 district board meeting? And that's all in the consent agenda. Have a motion? And I have a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. And that motion carries. Just confirm with Mrs. Zach McFarland that there are no public comments. Thank you, Zach. Appreciate that. Next is presentations from guests and representatives to the board. First, once at Ames. The Dean of Students, Shannon McCaslin, please step to the podium. And
woo, woo! We're ready to go.
Yay.
Good afternoon. Today, I have the privilege of introducing you to someone I think you've seen a lot of places around campus, in the hallways, in meetings, events, even today out while we were eating. Stephanie Thompson graduated from high school in Lovell, Wyoming in 2010 with the Daniels Fund Scholarship in hand. And through the course of many life events, she found her way to Ames in 2018. You're going to be interested to hear about that. As you see on the slide behind us, she's already earned a credential at Ames and will graduate again with multiple credentials, multiple associate of applied science degrees in May. There's never been a moment of Steph's time at Ames when she wasn't all in. I have learned that about Steph. She's made quite a ripple of difference around here. And I'm now going to happily give her the microphone to share part of her story. The remarkable Stephanie Thompson.
Thank you, Shannon. Hello. I am so honored to be here today. I would like to start by thanking my mother. She has always stressed the importance of education. And because of her endless support and encouragement, I did all the things I needed to do to graduate high school with a scholarship and get recruited to dive on a college diving team. It was the University of North Dakota that I first called home away from home. And in my 2.5 years there, I was a competitive diver. I had a job making costumes in the theater department. I became vice president of the swing dance club. I traveled to nationals with the robotics team, and I was a resident assistant for a year. I made some great friends and I loved my professors, but there was just something missing. They say college is the time you discover who you truly are, but they never tell you what to do when that isn't true. So I finished my semester, put in an official notice of withdrawal, contacted the Daniels Fund to relinquish my scholarship, and I started off on a journey I could have never imagined. I spent the next 6.5 years bouncing around 4 states, trying to get to 2 other colleges, working various dead-end jobs, collecting a boyfriend, 3 cats, and other things I loved along the way. It was this journey that brought us to Greeley, and I again stumbled into another menial job. However, this is where I was introduced to Ames by a coworker who was an Ames student herself. I was skeptical at first, but upon first contact and first visit, I knew Ames was the place for me. Kim Joyner was the first person I spoke to, and she was so welcoming and inviting. I could not turn down an invitation to her office so she could answer more of my questions about starting school. While there, I mentioned that I was interested in taking the communication media courses, and she stood up right out of her seat and says, "I know those guys. You're going to love them. Let's see if they're there now." And in that moment, we walked from Cornerstone to Ed Beatty for an introduction. I met a couple of the professors and the department chair, Jim Crandall. It was those first moments with Kim and Jim that changed my life. I knew I loved everything about Ames, and I left that day singing that song from Annie, I Think I'm Gonna Like It Here. This orientation, feeling alone, old, and out of place. But then the speaker got up and said those beautiful words that we have painted in our student comments, you belong. And I knew she was talking to me. The first years of Ames were rough, riddled with constant anxiety attacks and finding quiet hallways to avoid contact with other people. But then a pandemic swept the world, and I realized I wasn't the only person feeling anxious anymore. When campus reopened in fall of 2020, Media Production Club only had 3 members. So I volunteered to be the president, and that lasted for the 2 years during the tail end of the pandemic. My involvement in clubs is what connected me to the sale office and led me to my first job in student government. During my last year as the student government vice president of public relations, I launched the Community of Care wristband campaign to gauge comfort levels across the campus and to rebuild a sense of community. I also organized Ames Spirit Week, a week-long celebration intended to engage students and cultivate school spirit. I also produced the show you may have heard of, Student Gov Live. That couldn't have been possible without my wonderful coworkers from last year and our fearless leader, Janet Chase. I am so very grateful to be able to serve the students of Ames once more this year. We had another successful Spirit Week during the last full week in October, and be on the lookout next semester for the Ames Game, a new collaborative project featuring celebrities like you against students trying to match fill-in-the-blank questions. Ames has done more for me than I can have time to explain. It has given me the opportunity to grow as a student. It has unlocked a passion for educating and helping others. It has helped shape who I am. It has given me guidance and insurance in times of the unknown. And it has helped clear a path for my future onward. I have been all in since before it was our slogan, and my only hope is that I can give back as much as this community has given me. I love Ames, and I hope to inspire, encourage, and assist future generations of Ames students for years to come. To anyone considering Ames, I say, if I belong here, so do you. Thank you.
Next on the agenda, representatives to the board. First is Ross Perkins with Ames Staff Association. Hi, Ross.
And everyone, Shannon, would you mind coming doing an introduction for me? That's okay. That was incredible, by the way. Great job. Good afternoon, board, Dr. B, guests, family and friends. If I have any family out there. Thank you for coming on this such windy day. I'm super excited to be here at the end of the semester. We are still in session over at ECA, but I was able to get away for a few hours to come over and celebrate the Ames Staff Association. I only have a few things to announce. We did not have a meeting in December. We decided to cancel because of just gearing up for the end of the semester and everything. But we are going to be starting January with quite a bit going on. So I will update you in the January board meeting. Okay. First thing I have is the Ames Staff Association Scholarship. We had 2 students that received the Ames Staff Association Scholarship. This scholarship pays for books, and Zach Smith and Peyton Amons were the ones who received the scholarship, and they sent us a couple of nice letters. And so I just want to recognize them and all the Ames staff who contribute to this scholarship every year. So thank you very much. Second thing I want to do is thank my leadership team, the ASA leadership team. Megan, Christine, Julia, Natalia, Nan, Megan, and Aaron. Without these people, we wouldn't be able to do all the incredible things that we're starting to do. And this is such an incredible team to work with. It makes my job a lot easier because they have the organizational skills that I lack some days. And so working with these ladies has been a blessing, and I am looking forward to the next couple of years of working with them. So I want to give them a shout out for all the things that they've helped me get off the ground and support me as we go through some of our programming and things like that. So, and then finally, I know everybody looks at the ripples. I know it's in your board packet and stuff, and this month's ripples there was quite a few. And what I want to do is really address the audience and those that are out there on the internet and stuff, is to really take a few moments and read through these ripples and see the incredible things that your coworkers, the staff and faculty and the students that are doing here at Ames. This month's ripples were just incredible, and some of the things that are just happening, and some of them, just the small things that people do to make it, for people to be all in, like Stephanie said, just really touches me, and I really enjoy reading these every month. So I really encourage folks to take 10 minutes, drink a cup of coffee, and read through the ripples. That's all I have today to share with you. Any questions, comments? Well, thank you very much, and I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday. Okay? Oh, yeah.
I was just gonna make a comment. I agree. The ripples this month seem to have a lot more just color to them. It was really nice and exciting. I mean, I could feel the excitement reading them. So
Yeah.
I agree with you. A cup of coffee and sitting down and reading is really nice reading.
Yep. Thank you very much. And I think for everybody who puts in the ripples, I think that's an important part of just communicating what we're doing. So thank you very much and have a great day.
Thank you, Ross. Always appreciate hearing from you. Next, we get to hear from Student Government Association, Danielle Irwin. Hi, Danielle.
Hello, everybody. Okay. Greetings, everyone. Thank you for having me. Cabinet members, Dr. Bornstein, Chair Oxiger, and everybody else in attendance. I am honored to be here as always. So this year, wonderful. I cannot imagine, I cannot believe that the fall semester has already come and gone. It went by so quick. The spring semester quickly approaches. But before that happens, we are able to take some time to rest and to be with our loved ones. So we're all very thankful for that. And this time of year is just a great chance to kind of sit back and reflect on past accomplishments and kind of enjoy the steps that you've taken to where you are now. And I always enjoy doing that. And I think that that can be said for all areas of our lives, especially here at Ames. So I would just like to take some time to reflect on all the wonderful things that ASAC has been able to accomplish this past semester. During the fall semester, something that I'm very happy to report is that the CAP board, our Campus Activities Programming Board, they planned and hosted 26 different student programs during the fall semester. We also had 24 club and org events, and we had 1,363 attendees in total to all of our different events. So that was huge. We're super excited. Additionally, our student clubs have increased from 15 clubs at the start of fall semester to 20 clubs here at the end of this fall semester. So we've had a significant increase in student clubs, and that's amazing. Student participation has significantly increased. We're excited about that. Let's see. The student leaders have also had various advocacy programs in the works that have either been completed or are continuing to be worked on. From our menstrual equity program to the outdoor piano program that y'all have heard about. We've also increased student communication. We've been working on our funding request form updates. We're trying to raise awareness about open education resources. We are updating our restroom resource guides. I don't know if y'all have seen, but the green things that have all the information, that was a student government project. So we've been working on updating those. And then we've also been working hard to reduce substance use stigma and work on harm reduction here. We've also been able to provide 4 different recovery allyship trainings with 28 attendees in total. We are really excited about that. We've received amazing feedback from the attendees, and I just kind of like to read some of the comments, some of my favorite ones. One of them was, my knowledge and understanding of substance use and addiction was increased by this presentation. After this training, I feel more confident in my ability to understand recovery issues. Two of my very favorites. I'm comfortable listening openly to students who approach me to talk about issues relating to substance use disorders or addiction. And then I valued the definitions and resources. Breaking down the stigmas and providing resources provides a human view of substance use recovery. And just hearing these comments is amazing. It shows that the work that we're doing here does matter and has a lasting impact. And I think that is huge. It warms my heart to know that what we're doing matters. ASAC continues to provide and advocate for valuable experiences here at AIM, and we're very excited for the upcoming semester. We're very much looking forward to the greeting project that'll be taking place the 2 first days of returning to classes. And we're looking for volunteers. So if you know anybody interested in greeting students and handing out swag, please contact the Student Activities Department, studentactivities.edu. We would love to have y'all. And then if you're interested in volunteering, please contact us. We look forward to that. But at this time, we're just going to kind of take our time, have a little break, and then convene back in January and start our planning for the upcoming semester. And as Steph mentioned and Madeline mentioned, we do have the Art of Indigenous Peoples coming up during spring. So keep an eye out for that. We're very excited. So if anybody has any questions, I'd love to hear them. Thank you for my time.
Danielle, it's always interesting to hear your report. You bring so much to the table. In reading through the packet, there's so much good information. I was reading through your conferences, your public performances and stuff. Just on kind of a personal note, I don't know, maybe somebody else might be interested, but in Jill Scott's conference, she did a presentation on a new addition to the family tree. I found that intriguing, and I'm just wondering if there's some way that I can find out more about that. Well, then I'm going to ask the question again. Actually, faculty just heard it, didn't you? So I won't need to answer it again. Ask it again. Okay. Well, thank you, Danielle.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay. Thanks again, Danielle. So next is AIMS Faculty Association. Let me welcome.
Right. I like this order. It's a decreasing order of height. Afternoon, Chair Agsegar, members of the board, Dr. B, Dr. Rothamer, wonderful students, my colleagues and friends. I have to tell you, it is really tough to follow after this wonderful presentations. But guess what? The faculty have been doing some exciting stuff as well. And I'm here to report on their achievement and their innovations. So let me just say, challenge accepted. Start with Anne Elizabeth Nash. She is a part-time instructor in biology, and she recently presented at a conference in Dominica. Her presentation was Anthropos Outcomes, Neutral Effects on a Population of Spiny-tailed Iguanas. Well, I got curious, so I looked it up. Anthropos is a temporary pause. And she was trying to study the impact of that pause on our wildlife. What an interesting study. And the next one is even better. Dr. Fana Mulumore currently presented at the National Society of Black Physicists National Conference in Virginia. Her presentation was titled Teaching Physics in an Astronomy Context. It focused on improving traditional physics education by using research-based instructional resources with a focus on space science. Now, I have to tell you, every time I talk about Fana, I get goosebumps. She's a star. And she's such a dedicated faculty who does amazing things for us students. I can't wait to hear about her innovations in teaching and then steal them, use them in my classes. Well, continuing on the theme of scholarship and representation, and the one that Chairperson Axigar is so interested in, we are going to talk about Jill Scott. Jill Scott is a part-time instructor in anthropology, and she gave a talk at the Regis University. Okay, let me get this right. Her presentation was Homo Naledi and the Dinaledi and Lesedi Chambers of Secrets, a new addition to the human family tree. And as Chairperson Axigar asked, I also got very curious about this, so I looked it up. So Homo naledi is a new species of hominin, humanoid, and it was recently discovered in the caves of South Africa. We did not know about this species before. So that I found was fascinating, and I cannot wait for her to share it with the rest of us in a conference, maybe. That would be great. And I will definitely tell her that the board members are interested in her paper. And if she can share some of that with the board, that would be great. Well, you will also love the next one. I always say that it takes a village to help our students achieve their dreams. And that village is affectionately called Ames Community College. Well, 4 faculty members who I want to give a huge shout out because they made our student Josh Oliver's dream come true. These 4 faculty members are Megan Friesen, Stacey Johnson, Kendra Griffin, all 3 of them from the English department. And then there is Benjamin Kessler from theater. So Josh started a writing project in Megan's class, which became a full-blown play in Stacey Johnson's and Kendra's class. Guess what? That play was recently performed at Ames Community College under the direction of Benjamin Kessler. Can we have a huge applause for them? Now, if you thought that was the height of the report, there's more. Let me talk about Judy, okay? Judy is our instructor of criminal justice, and she created this amazing, innovative learning experience for the students in her class. Hers volunteered with a local government entity, whether it was volunteering at the local fire station, going for a ride along with the Greeley Police Department, and more. They logged in 75 hours of community work while learning about government applications. Isn't that amazing? And a big shout out to Christine Wideman and Laura Killenwing. They worked to volunteer at the Ames with the high schools and Discover Ames with the community program this November. Can you see the smile on their faces? In the board packet, they have a picture of them there. I could not believe that their brilliance can radiate through a picture, but they managed it. And finally, faculty don't just talk the talk, they walk the walk. So we are going to recognize Henry Topham. He's a part-time faculty in welding technology. He recently passed his certified welding inspector exam through the American Welding Society. His chair, Cody Jones, said, "This is an extensive exam that requires significant preparation and training. We are extremely proud of Henry's hard work." You go, Henry! Congratulations to Henry. And he is leading by an example that we all want to see. Now comes the sad part. The entire report is done. And I can only come back next month to share more with you. Meanwhile, if there are any questions, I would be so happy to answer.
Any questions of Mumita? Mark, did you have a comment?
Well, I can't imagine you being sad about any question asked.
Oh,
thank you for your attitude, energy, and your zest for delivery. Thank you.
Pleasure. I think I forgot to mention, this is the best part of my job. Apart from teaching my students, that is definitely there. Yes.
Any other questions, comments? Well, as usual, thank you, Fumita, for your report and for your enthusiasm. Appreciate it very much.
I wish all of you a wonderful holiday break.
Next on the agenda is the action items. Action item 7A, mill levy certification for fiscal year 2023. I'll ask Mr. Chuck Jensen with Administrative Services.
Members of the board, we have before you action item 7A. This is the mill levy certification for fiscal year 2023. This is an annual certification that the board is required to do per statute, and it certifies the mills that are levied on property assessed values in Weld County in our taxing district. And so for this fiscal year, we are asking for 6.307 mills to be assessed. That's comprised of two components: our standard general operating mill of 2.99, which has been the same since 1992. And then we are allowed as a local district college to recover any abated taxes from the previous year. And so that's that other very small percentage that we're able to recover through this year's assessment in our property valuations. One quick little side note I just want to show, in talking about our taxing district and our service district, I actually sat down and what part of Logan and Morgan and Larimer and Broomfield and Adams where do we touch? Because our district, our taxing district is primarily Weld County, but when the district was established back in 1967, it was based on school districts. And so there's several school districts that touch several counties, and it's relatively small, but I'll leave the mic here and just show you very quickly where we touch the other counties, and it's very small. As you can tell by looking at the report, 99.93% of our assessed valuation comes from Weld County. As you can tell, the assessed valuations in Weld County from last year have gone up over 50%. And that's primarily due to oil and gas, not only production, but also price for oil and gas. And there's been strong growth in the residential, commercial, and industrial area. So as I presented in budget assumptions, we're looking at some very strong revenues coming in from our local property taxes for next fiscal year and then the fiscal year after also. And again, these are always in arrear. So this is for productivity, especially for oil and gas. This was for production in calendar year 2021. So we're always in arrears. And so I've made that comment several times to the board that, we're going to see things change, and we're going to see them several months, year and a half, 2 years in advance. So when there's drastic changes or changes in our assessed valuations, we're going to see that well in advance before those mills are levied. So based on that, the administrative recommendation is to pass action item 7A, certifying the mill levy at 6.0307 for fiscal year 23. And I'll stand for any questions.
Questions with Chuck? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion that we certify the mill levy for fiscal year 2023 as
Motion to approve action item number 7A, mill levy certification for fiscal year 2022.
I'd second.
we have a motion, we have a second. Right, yeah, we have a second. Any other?
Just make sure chapter 3 refuses, we lose the mill. The voters.
Yeah, don't even joke.
Yeah, yeah. Moving on.
Yes, you are correct.
Okay, I'll call the question quickly. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, action item B, sunset of manufacturing technician certificate, industrial technology. And welcome Dr. Rotherman.
Thank you, Chair Oxiger, members of the board, Dr. Bornstein. As Amy McFarland, who's our chair of this career and technical education program, shared with you last month during your work session, the certificates within the industrial technology program at Ames have been revised to better suit industry needs and now include 4 different certificates. The classes and those certificates have been maintained within these new certificates. Therefore, this current manufacturing technician certificate that we previously offered are no longer necessary. And what we have, the team has created is a teach out plan for the handful of students that are currently in that program so they can complete it should they choose to. So it's our administrative recommendation to approve the sunset of the manufacturing technician certificate within the industrial technology program.
Thank you, Dr. Rotherman. Any questions? Any comments? Ms. Marilyn.
I know there were a few students left. Has there been any feedback from stuff?
I'll confirm that, but we're set up to teach that out if needed. But I haven't gotten any feedback. That doesn't mean that Chair McFarland hasn't. So I can verify that.
Dr. Rothermer, I'm sorry, I'm here and I couldn't hear the question. If you can repeat it, I could try to answer it.
The question was whether or not we've heard from any of the students that might be interested in the teach out of the certificate program.
Yeah, great question. Megan Blazer, our program coordinator, reached out to every single student who was declared in this certificate, and all of them have agreed to either switch certificates or follow the teach out plan as prescribed.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve action item 7B?
Remove. Approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve action item 7B, the sunset of the manufacturing technician certificate. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Same sign. And motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Rotherman.
Thank you.
C. Article request for Heather Brown and Dr. Rothermer. You're still up.
Thank you, Chair Oxiger. Prior to sharing the request with you for this particular sabbatical, I wanted to share with you an overview of the standard operating procedure that the college utilizes to identify any sabbatical requests that come before the board. And this applies to not only this action item, but the following 3 as well. So it's been the practice of Ames Community College to offer faculty the sabbatical leave based on operational needs of the college. based on available funds, and faculty can apply for sabbatical leave after service of 6 successful academic years. Faculty will not be granted sabbatical leave more frequently than once every 7 years. The guidelines that are utilized are the college may approve at its discretion up to a total of 4 annual sabbatical requests per academic year. A sabbatical may be granted for 1 academic semester or 2 academic semesters. Sabbatical leaves granted for 1 academic semester is paid at full pay, while 2 semester sabbatical leave is paid at half pay for the year. The college sets up a sabbatical review committee that reviews all applications and determines which packets move forward to the chief academic officer. We have an academic dean that chairs that sabbatical committee and is a non-voting member, and between 2 and 3 faculty members who have previously completed a sabbatical rank order the sabbatical requests and then submit them to the chief academic officer. Upon receipt of those, I review them as well, then I present them to our vice president of administrative services, and he verifies that the college has the funds available to do that, and it wouldn't create any undue hardship for the institution. And then those are presented to Dr. Bornstein for her review prior to coming to the board for ultimately your review and potential approval. So that's the standard operating procedure that we use for our sabbatical review process. Are there any questions on that process before I get to the action item? Thank you. So the first action item is within Allied Health and Wellness. Our faculty member Heather Brown has applied to take sabbatical leave for the spring 2024 academic semester to focus on storytelling as a teaching strategy to utilize professional experience in story form to increase student engagement. Allied health students often cite fictional healthcare dramas as an original point for their interest in the field. Heather is seeking to leverage that interest and combine it with real life experiences of our faculty. So our administrative recommendation is to recommend approval for Heather Brown to take sabbatical leave for the spring 2024 academic semester.
Any questions of Russ? We entertain a motion to approve action item 7C for sabbatical leave for Heather Brown.
I move to approve action item number 17.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion to approve action item 7C. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Congratulations, Heather.
Thank you. Arts and science, oops, oh, I'm getting ahead of you, Chair Oxiger.
That's okay. Action item D.
Ready to go.
We'll keep this boat moving here. Action item D is sabbatical leave request for Amelia Buckley. Turn it back over to you, Dr. Robin.
Thank you, sir. Arts and Sciences faculty member Amelia Buckley has applied to take sabbatical for the fall 2023 academic semester to integrate curated and self-created materials into various interactive modules in order to replace the currently costly materials being used for Spanish language 1 classes and to provide the foundation for open educational resource adoption throughout the Spanish language course sequence. OER materials have the potential to make terrific impact on world language classes, but current resources are sparse within the area, especially in regard to interactive activities central to the language instruction. Therefore, our administrative recommendation is to recommend approval for Amelia Buckley to take sabbatical leave for fall 2023 academic semester.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of Dr. Rothermer? A motion to approve action item 7D, sabbatical request for Amelia Buckley.
So moved to approve action item 7B.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve action item 7B. sabbatical request, Amelia Buckley. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. And that motion carries. Congratulations, Amelia. Next on the agenda. Action item 7E. Leslie Morrison sabbatical request. Dr. Rogers.
Thank you, Chair Oxiger. Also from Arts and Sciences, but from our English department, Leslie Morrison has applied to take sabbatical for the spring 2024 academic semester to research the pedagogy of writing portfolios as a way for first-year college students to enhance their confidence as writers and to better transfer their writing knowledge to other courses. When implemented effectively, the portfolio process emphasizes students' continuous improvement, self-assessment, and ability to transfer skills to other writing-based tasks. Our administrative recommendation is to recommend the approval for Leslie Morrison to take sabbatical for the spring 2024 semester.
Questions of Dr. Rothermere? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve action item 7E, sabbatical request for Leslie Morrison?
I would make motion to approve action item 7E, approving sabbatical for Leslie Morrison.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve action item 7E. In favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. And that motion carries. Congratulations, Leslie. Next, item 7F, sabbatical request for Sonia Hawkune. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Oxiger. Again, from our Arts and Sciences faculty, Sonia Pakune has applied to take a sabbatical for the fall 2023 academic semester to invigorate her artistic knowledge and process in three-dimensional design by completing 7 sculptural vanitas, altars, and 23 pair chromosome prints of a DNA double helix interactive installation. I'll be looking forward to that report when she comes back. This will also include the acquisition of new techniques like creative welding and will also feature the creation of a digital portfolio, which will improve her ability to support students who want to catalog and present their work in a digital medium. Our administrative recommendation is to recommend approval for Sonia Pakune to take sabbatical leave for the fall 2023 academic semester.
All right, thank you, Dr. Rothmer. Any questions of Dr. Rothmer? Hearing none. In a motion to approve action item 7F, sabbatical request for Sonia Pakune.
I would so move to approve action item 7F for Sonia Hawkine.
I have a motion and a second to approve action item 7F. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That is congratulations, Sonia. Not a big hand for all of our sabbatical.
Thank you for your continued support of our faculty.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rothermer. Okay, next is information items. Item A, events calendar and upcoming work session agenda items. Turn it over to Jerry.
Thank you, Chair Oxiger. I'll go ahead and first highlight the calendar of events coming up. That's in your packet. First on there, you'll notice the college will be closed for winter break, December 19th through January the 2nd. Next after that will be the board retreat in January the 19th. We'll be here at the Welcome Center. And of course, our February board meeting and our March board meeting will be down in Fort Lachlan. Lastly, there on that list, you'll see on February 17th, just another reminder about Conversation Day, which you're going to be here at the Welcome Center. And I'll hand it over to Dr. Benson for a little more.
We're very excited for Conversation Day. While we're still building out details and logistics, we have a very exciting keynote speaker coming to us that day. His name is Dr. Arthur Levine. He has a career in higher education, scholarship, research, practitionership. His most recent book, extremely prolific writer,
been on many talk shows and so forth, and someone who certainly DC calls for opinions about higher education. His most recent book is The Great Upheaval. I have a copy for each one of you. He is going to be our keynote speaker for the day. So he's going to kick us off, giving us sort of some overview. The first three parts, or the first 3/4 of the book, are focused on a bit of higher educational history and environmental, current and recent past environmental impacts. The last quarter of his book is where he's going to focus his keynote remarks. That is him and his co-author projecting for the next few years of what we can expect in higher education. So he will be here, like I said, as keynote. He'll be offering Q&A, and he has offered and agreed to have a VIP lunch with the board members, as well as the cabinet. We are also going to invite the Weld, our service area, Weld County superintendent, SU president, Fort Morgan president. So if they choose to attend, they will be invited to lunch too. So you will have a special lunch with him. You have copies of the books. Not sure, with your reading pace, if you want to read, be familiar, but I would imagine you might want to come to that one. Of this book, but he has a whole career. You can Google him. He's got wonderful writings over the course of the years about higher education. Those of us who have received doctorates and master's degrees, advanced degrees in any form of higher education probably have quoted him in our dissertations. I know I did many times. So wanted to just give you that information and give you a copy of the book so that you have it.
More items to go through here as well. You'll look ahead to the annual agenda calendar. We'll just take a look ahead to the February board meeting. I won't highlight all of those items that are bullet pointed there, but just a few of them to give an idea of what we'll be talking about during that meeting. You'll have tuition, action on tuition that Chuck went over earlier today. Approval of the location of Board of Trustees meeting notices is our annual item there. You also have a facilities master plan in-depth presentation during the work session, and using of the Board of Trustees member on the Distinguished Fellow Committee. We decided who the Distinguished Fellow is going to be each year. So that will be coming up in February, along with a few of those other items that are bullet pointed there. And this item is, you should have in front of you the conflict of ethics, or code of ethics and code of conduct for your signatures there. So if you want to take a moment to sign those, so I can grab those and get those on file, based on the board's edit through that procedure at the last meeting. This has become an annual process and not just a process that occurs every election year. So if you will please sign those, take a moment there, and I'll collect those that way to make sure that I have those in file for us.
Any questions of Gary? Okay, then, thank you, Jerry, for that. Next, item B, Foundation Board Liaison Update. Trustee Howe. On deck.
This foundation board over the last year. It's just been a treat to get to see how that works. And our foundation to me is, I'll get elected at your height. But it is a building part of this college, and that guy goes there. We got 2 more. You don't mind? I got to suit up here because I got to get in the fundraising mode. You got to be out and about all the time. I mean, there's things that we got to be very proud of at this college. I mean, we are a group of individuals and collectively huge. So I'm going to give you December 14th report. I won't try to drag Kelly into too much trouble here because she wrote it all out for me. As long as I stated the script reasonably, we'll be fine. Some of the good points, as of 12/13, we added 81 new donors this year to date. Now we're halfway through the year. I believe that's correct, Chuck. So we are on the same calendar year as the college. So we've added 81 new donors, increased contribution levels of 50, was one of the goals was, these are goals. One of them was to have 75 donors. So far to date, we've created 59 new donors. Increased giving by $250,000. And let me know if this number is correct. I think we've increased year to date $550,000, 401 by 401. Increase in number of donors retained by 200. The goal of 304, we reached 129. Good there. It's an operation. I believe there's some operational goals. Now we have two Kellys, Kelly Z, Kelly J. Okay, they're, you know, everybody know what a prairie dog village is? You know, when you see a prairie dog village, there's like a zillion of these guys out there popping up here and there. Well, in this community, we have two Kellys, and I swear to God, they look like a prairie dog village. Whenever I'm out and about, they're there, one of them or two, which is a neat asset that we have. And all of us are part of that village, by the way. That's why we wear these lapel pins, our little button pins. Whenever we can hear a story, it's so important to share that well. So thank you for doing that, because there's other people behind the two Kellys. And I have their names down here on that third page, fourth page, maybe. Her support staff, and I got it here. I mentioned it later. The other thing that we're doing that we didn't get done, we had a big naming year in 2021. We got some large cash come in, and we got some events named over at the Welcome Center. This year, sad news is we're down a little bit. 23% is what it said. Now, it's just because we really haven't had any big naming events yet. They're there. They're coming, I know. October gifts, down 2%. Ouch. But in-kind gifts for November were $37,000. Now, I don't know what the in-kind gifts were, but I'm sure that's a substantial sum. We got to be proud of that. We always feel comfortable, you know, at Ames, we challenge of giving our students and ourselves the pride ownership, and the foundation is part of that. And what our students can do to support that post-graduation and while they're here, it would be important, as well as this community. This community is very proud of this college. There isn't a person in Weld County that doesn't have a huge amount of respect for this institution and what we provide, period, done. I've never heard a negative word, never, about what we provide. So the foundation is important because we get scholarships, provide services that are important. Can we build that fund bigger so we can provide more? Yes, but you have to act. So remember that next year when you got a giving cycle. I mean, you got till the end of June to give, right? Remember that. If you got some extra cash, please do. Yeah, another information. Lyle, is it okay if I continue? You know, drag on.
It's your show, Mark.
Okay, they gave me some graphs. I wish we could have put them up on the screen, but they're interesting because, you know, recapturing donors is extremely important, especially if you lost one. So to go back and get it maybe a year or two later, that's always in the cycle. It's just like retention. What do? with the student we lost last year? Do we give up on it or we go back next year? No, we go back next year. We tap on their shoulder and say, can we help you make it happen? So that's very important. When you look at this graph, you can all see this, can't you? No, that's okay. Our increases are above average. So we're working towards a positive goal on that. I could show you all these graphs are doing great. I mean, if you looked at them, believe me, trust me, they're good. I'm very proud of what the staff's doing. As a board liaison, I don't get to vote on anything. I get to listen a little bit. And the foundation group that we have, the chair. Where's Nikki? Oh, there we go. Kelly, you can stand up. Our other Kelly's probably in some prairie dog village out there. Oh, good job. Oh, yikes. Okay. The other thing, I don't know how many of our other board members we have here, but we have Steve Baker. He's a director. He's been a longstanding member of this community, a great asset to bring on. And you can think of people to suggest to Kelly, give them to Dr. B. Sarah Daly. She's a financial person, just very knowledgeable, works for HP, Hewlett Packard, and very knowledgeable, very user-friendly. Diane Holmwood, the president, and she's excited every time we get together. Carol Hoagland, she's the treasurer finance committee chair. Chuck probably has good words to always say about her. Of course he would. Ted Johnson, he's a contractor like myself, but commercial divisions. And he's vice chair, director as well. Bev Paratino, friend of mine personally, by coincidence, but also a very, okay. Just want to introduce everybody. But Chuck Jensen, where's he? He's ex-official, and Dr. B, she's on our group. And so, the long to short, with the foundation board, what we can do to give, we'll always get. I want to thank you for your time today. Oh, yeah. Here they're a rarity.
Thank you very much, Mark, for that animated report. Next on the agenda is the president's report. Dr. Bornstein.
We will begin with our legislative pre-session report by Tanette Salazar from Strategies 360. I understand Tanette is actually here in person. There she is.
I think there we go. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Bornstein, it's my honor to introduce to you Annette Salazar and Dylan Pepper. They're with Strategies 360. They are our lobbyists down in Denver, and they have represented the college for a number of years. And at the December meeting, we always ask Annette and Dylan to give us a brief update, kind of a brief overview of what to expect from the upcoming session. And so without further ado, invite Annette and Dylan to the mic, and I appreciate them taking the time to come up from Denver to be with us in person. And it's nice to see them. We've done this remotely for the last couple of years, so it's nice to see them in person. So Annette and Dylan.
Invitation, and that is a hard act to follow. I feel like I should have had some props or costumes or giveaways. So very impressive. Thank you for letting us present today. We can go to the next slide, please. Or is there I could drive. So, we're excited to be up here today to give you a brief legislative update. I believe you received this a couple of weeks ago, right after the election. That gives you a general overview of the outcome of the elections. We've had a few changes with some resignations and vacancies, but we'll do a high-level overview and then address some key specific issues around budget and other legislation. Brief election facts, just talking about the election in Colorado and about the number of people who voted versus the number of registered voters and a breakdown of some of the demographics. Colorado has been doing vote by mail for a very long time. So it was a system that individuals were used to or still had the option to vote in person. Statewide offices, quick recap. Incumbents in governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, secretary of state, and treasurer were reelected. Senator Dave Young, former Representative Dave Young, now treasurer from Weld County. In Congress, we have Senator Hickenlooper was not up for re-election. Senator Bennett won his re-election. And then in our congressional districts, we had a new congressional district 8, as I'm sure you all are aware of, since it comes right into your area. That was a result of the redistricting that happened in 2021. You can see the results of the House congressional districts as they finished, and the recount in CD3 was just finalized earlier this week. And looking at the Colorado State House, in the State House, they have what we call a supermajority. That is when 2/3 of the body is with one political party. There is one vacancy due to the unexpected passing of Minority Leader Representative McKean. His partner has been appointed for the end of the year, and then a permanent replacement will come in January. In the Senate, it's a similar breakdown, again, a supermajority, which we haven't seen in a long time. There's another vacancy because Senator Bob Rankin has resigned as of January of 2023. His wife, Joyce Rankin, is on the State Board of Education. They are relocating to Florida. So a vacancy committee is being assigned and will be appointed to select someone to fill that seat. So right when we think we have things finalized, it's still a revolving door as to who will be the final makeup of the House and the Senate and the legislature. House leadership was elected this past month. Representative Julie McCluskey is the speaker designee out of Summit County. The rest of the leadership makeup, Monica Duran is the majority leader out of Wheat Ridge. Jennifer Bacon is out of Denver as the assistant majority leader. Then we've got Brianna Tatone and Mandy Lindsay as the caucus chairs, and Andrew Basenecker and Iman Judah as our whips. House Republican did not post a photo on social media, so I don't have one to share with you. But Minority Leader, Representative Mike Lynch from Larimer County, up in your area. Assistant Majority Leader, Rep-elect Rose Galisi. She's from El Paso County and will be a new incoming legislator. Mary Bradfield out of El Paso County as caucus chair, and then incumbent Richard Holtorf as the whip. Whip is a term used to count votes on the floor from the respective parties on priority caucus issues. And at leadership, their social media game is strong. So they had this picture posted on Twitter after their elections. And the leadership in the House did not turn over like it did, or in the Senate did not turn over like it did in the House. A lot of returning leadership. So President Fenberg out of Boulder will be returning as president. Majority Leader Dominic Moreno out of Adams County was Majority Leader appointed in the middle of the session last year when there was a leadership change, when President Garcia was appointed to a job in the Pentagon. Our new Assistant Majority Leader is Robert Rodriguez out of Denver. And then we've got caucus chair is Senator Julie Gonzalez, or I'm sorry, she's the whip, and Senator Janet Buckner is our caucus chair. Included in the Senate leadership picture are the Democratic Joint Budget Committee members. Rachel Zenzinger is the chair of the Joint Budget Committee this year, and Senator Jeff Bridges is the other representative on there. And Senate Republican leadership didn't give me a photo to share, but Minority Leader Senator Lundeen out of El Paso County is a veteran, as is Senator Bob Gardner, the Assistant Majority Leader. One of your own, Barbara Kirkmeyer, is the caucus whip from Weld County, and then the caucus chair is Senator Smallwood from Douglas. We have compiled a list for you of key legislators from Weld and Larimer counties, given the location of your flight training center and the majority of your taxing district. As Chuck described, you have brief little tiny areas of Adams and Broomfield and other counties. We didn't include those for today's purposes, but happy to provide you with a full list. You can see you have a combination makeup of individuals from both political parties, as well as spreading across both. What we find in an election year is we have a lot of brand new legislators who not only are new to the legislature, but new to the issues. And so Dylan and myself will be spending some time introducing ourselves to legislators that we haven't met with before, as well as letting them know about Ames and all the amazing things that you all are doing here. The last point that I will end with here on my portion is the Joint Budget Committee members. These 6 individuals are in charge of a $34 billion budget. And so they have a lot of influence over every aspect of the budget. For the first time, at least in my multi-decade career, we have all 6 members are brand new to the Joint Budget Committee. Senator Rankin was the only member of the Joint Budget Committee who had any institutional history. With his resignation, Senator Kirkmeyer was appointed to that position. So we're excited to have somebody from Weld County on the Joint Budget Committee. The last time that occurred was with Senator Dave Owen, which is probably before some folks' time in the room, but not before mine. The Senator Rachel Zenzinger, as I mentioned, will be the chair. Everybody else is brand new to the committee. She does have about a half a session, maybe a session, experience on the Joint Budget Committee. It has been kind of a slow and painstaking process because it is a very steep learning curve. And so Dylan will talk a little bit more about the budget in just a minute. And there are some key ballot issues that passed, which are having an impact on the budget. Proposition FF provides universal school meals to all in Colorado for school districts that choose to participate. This has a long road to coming to fruition because there's some federal waivers that need to be applied for and received, as well as accepting it into a statewide program for food providers. So if this comes to fruition, all the hurdles are passed. The first time that school districts can offer this is in July of 2023. Position GG was something related to transparency. So if there's any state income tax changes, there is now required to be a table that shows the impact on different income ranges, either up or down, of what a tax change would be to different income levels for individuals. Proposition 121 was a property tax decrease. Colorado has a flat income tax rate, so from 4.55 to 4.4%. Dylan will talk about the impact on the state budget, but between FF and 121, it's several $100 million that will be cut from the current budget and then the budget moving forward. Proposition 123 expands affordable housing across the state. This was the #1 issue in the election across 64 of 65 House districts and all 17 Senate districts that were up for election. It's an ongoing situation that the state has dedicated a lot of congressional funding for, but the need is still there across the state. And then last but not least, if you're trying to do one-stop shopping, you can have grocery and alcohol at the same. I'm going to turn it over to Dylan now to talk numbers.
That said, I just wanted to start with a quick overview of where we are in the state budget. I wanted to back up a little bit. So if we were here in March of 2020, we would have said the state's facing huge cuts. And the state did make huge cuts. That largely got overturned over the next 12 months because the state collected about $5 billion more than they anticipated through personal income tax. They also got infusion from the federal government. So over the last 2 years, the state has had $8 billion more to spend than they anticipated. We couldn't be in a more polar opposite spot right now, where that money has largely all been spent, particularly the federal money and then the general fund money. And now, depending on whether you use the governor's office forecast or the legislative council forecast, we are facing roughly a $300 million budget shortfall for the next fiscal year. So what does that mean? That means for higher ed that when on November 1st, when the governor did his budget proposal, he asked for $86 million more for institutions of higher ed. That's $67 million to the 10 governing boards, and then $2.8 million to local district colleges, and then $16 million for financial aid, largely for need-based financial aid, and then $3 million for COSA. I think that is the absolute best case scenario that institutions of higher ed could expect to receive next year. We've got another revenue forecast coming up here in a couple of days. And the concerning part that we've seen from the state level is income tax collections are starting to weaken. And income tax collections is about 70% of our general fund revenue. So anytime we see that weakening, that's a major concern. We also have persistently high inflation and higher than anticipated Medicaid caseload growth. So the areas of the budget that are required to increase by inflation or caseload growth usually cost $500 or $600 million annually. This year, it's going to be well over $1 billion just to fund what we paid for last year. When you take that all into account, it's easy to see how you have the revenue shortfall that we do from the state level. That also does take into account the $500 million decrease from the individual income tax going from 4.55 to 4.4. So that's an annual decrease of $500 million. So it is tight. We don't have necessarily a great thing to say, but while Ames is in a good financial position, the rest of the state, the other governing boards are in a much tighter spot because they are of the belief that they need roughly a $200 million increase to maintain core minimum costs next year. And I don't think it's very likely that they are able to invest, the state are able to invest that kind of money this year. And the last thing we were asked, potential legislative issues, and we were asked to kind of focus on issues that may affect oil and gas operations in Weld County. The first one we wanted to talk about is a bill that was contemplated last year as a regional ozone bill. In that bill, there's language about existing permit holders not being able to operate in non-attainment areas on high ozone days. Essentially, that means if you are an existing oil and gas operator on a high ozone day, which is most of the state of Colorado is now in a non-attainment area, you wouldn't be able to operate your wells. That has a serious impact on oil and gas operations, as well as severance tax collection and everything else that drives the funding. 99.97, I heard earlier, of the funding. We are directing the Air Quality Control Commission to make new regulations on the oil and gas industry and put new monitoring and reporting requirements on emissions. So is the number one risk, I would say, that could potentially be coming next year. The other one, Senator Chris Hansen out of Denver tried to run it. It got nicknamed the lawnmower bill. You'd say, why does that matter? Well, the lawnmower bill had additional greenhouse gas target reductions in there. So in 2019, the legislature passed a 2025, a 2030, and a 2050 target for greenhouse gas reductions. We're behind as a state meeting those reductions. So he wanted to add additional 2028 and 2040 greenhouse gas reduction targets into the legislature. Generally speaking, the first area they go to are power plants and oil and gas operations to further the greenhouse gas reduction. If that's implemented and they put interim targets in there, it likely would have an impact on oil and gas operations in the state of Colorado. And then finally, the last one we wanted to talk about, it's not necessarily related to oil and gas operations, but it is pertinent to Ames because you guys are a large employer, is the employee trip reduction program. They tried to do this through rulemaking a couple of years ago that said large employers have to have carpooling and employees have to live within a certain radius of the physical location of their job. That did not go through rulemaking because they didn't have the statutory authority. So they could come back and run a bill on that this next session. And I think they're trying to figure out whether they want to do an existing program like that or some other tax fee on vehicle miles. So depending on which direction they choose, it could have an impact to Ames as an employer. Any questions?
When will we hear more about these?
It's largely been quiet because one of the sponsors, particularly of the ozone bill, is in a little legal trouble, has been charged with work.
There's been a charge for not living in her district. And so that is playing out right now. And so depending on the outcome of that will depend on whether she brings the ozone bill or whether someone else might bring it instead. The legislative session starts on January 9th this year. That's when I would say approximately 100 of the 600 to 700 bills will be introduced. So we'll see a first round. Then there's usually nothing too controversial in that first round. The next round of bills comes the third week of January and then the first week of February. So that's when we'll start to learn a little bit more of these in the public sphere. And then we're obviously tracking them in what we call the rumor mill, and then connecting with others who are also working in the same space.
Yes. A question on the ozone bill, if it were to be passed, there any analysis available, how many days that would shut down production in Weld County, if based on average ozone measurement?
They do have that. I don't know it off the top of my head. I mean, if it sticks out to me, I think it would affect almost 20,000 existing permits. But we can follow up with you with the number of days that would affect production.
Okay, thank you.
That's a shortfall. Okay, 300 million, I think that's what you said. And then didn't we increase our ed's revenue stream from the state this past year?
We did. So in 2020, there was a $450 million cut. They restored that money in 2021. Last year, they added about $150 million. And this year, they're adding $86 million. What we'll see on January 1st is Governor Polis submit another revised budget proposal, and we'll have a lot better idea of where higher ed funding is in the current year based on that.
The climate of our state legislation and as well as the government, where do they like to cut?
They like to cut higher ed and K-12 are often the first place they cut. And often the deepest cut. I mean, in 2020, they cut K-12 almost $700 million and they cut higher ed $450 million. So over $2 billion budget shortfall, K-12 and higher ed, they're accounting for more than 50% of that.
That's gonna change quite a bit over the next 2 years.
Likely. And things aren't, I mean, as you look 2 or 3 years out, the state's budget position is only going to get worse over the next 2 years. And it's largely being driven by, there's been some property tax changes that happened last year where they lowered the residential assessment rate from 7.15 to 6.85. I think there's likely going to be a push to continue that. And the state was able to backfill the money. It was about $280 million. I don't know that they'll be able to do that on an ongoing basis. Every time there's a change, a ballot initiative, legislative change, it just keeps getting tighter and tighter. And next year, the following 24-25 budget years to be more difficult than this year, I think.
Just a question, if the Tabor refund was not given out, how much money would that state have? So I guess.
So the Tabor refund the state collects was roughly $3.2 billion. They did an accelerated payment and everybody got $750 per person, $1,500 for a family of two. So that was about $2 billion. And then part of the 123, the property tax being paid out of there right now. So it's still well over $1 billion.
What else? Where are you in your presentation, Tony? You have more?
We are done.
Well, I just want to say thank you. It's so good to have you up here in person. It's great hearing from you on Zoom, but it's good to see you. And I want to thank you for what you both do for Ames College and for everybody up in this part of Northern Colorado.
It's our pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
The president's report is Dr. Rothmer will be reviewing course and lab fees.
Bernstein. What I'm going to do is just provide you a very high level overview of the summary of the lab and course fees that we're proposing for 2023 and 2024. But before I do that, I want to make sure I take the opportunity to thank the deans, program directors, chairs, faculty, and all the staff that do this process each year, because they do review each and every class, looking at the different courses, their fees and the materials that are used to make sure that we're adequately charging the students for the materials that they may use in the class, and that we're not either over or under as close as we can get. And so what you'll see within your packet is each of the courses delivered, but in terms of the high level overview, what I wanted to share is that overall the fees are going up by about 6.2%, around $7,600. And the majority of that increase is due to the increased costs in aviation, fuel, and maintenance for that program, as well as a change in the fire science fees in terms of charging. And I'll talk about those two a little bit more in depth in a second. But overall, 73 current fees were updated within the courses. 3 new courses were added that have fees, and then 4 courses had fees that were removed. And overall, as I mentioned, from our public safety division and transportation division, that's where the majority of the increases came from. And in particular, the aviation fees, again, were because of the increased fuel charges, as well as the maintenance to the aircraft. One of the pieces I wanted to point out, and while you'll see in the packet, there was just over a $1,200 increase in the fire science. The students were paying that fee prior anyways, that they were required to before and that was for the protective gear. By adding it as part of the fees upfront as part of the course, they have the opportunity then to potentially use financial aid for that. Whereas before we were asking them to have that significant charge that they would bear that as a personal expense. So by making it part of the actual fees for the course, they have an opportunity and another way to help pay for those the protective gear. For the other divisions in arts and sciences, overall there was a net increase of $16. So again, some went up a little bit, some went down a little bit. And overall, it's really looking at a combination of factors and efficiencies. And what I really appreciate about what our faculty have done, particularly in a lot of the lab science classes, was to look if there's a way that we can do those labs to be more efficient and to use different materials and to make it more accessible for students. In the business and technology division, there was just under a $600 increase. And part of that was we had a new welding course with some additional supplies for that. Business department had a PowerPoint exam added. So again, some minor pieces. And then overall in our allied health and wellness division, we had a $25 decrease across all of those classes. So again, there's a lot of work that goes into looking at each and every course, as well as their supplies and materials to accurately reflect the cost of delivering those instructional courses. Do you have any questions? Yes.
I'm looking, of course, at the firefighter 1 and 2, from $150 to $1,000. You're saying the $1,000 fee, they have the option to apply for scholarship?
Or use financial aid for that. Yep. And that fee also includes state certification fees of $60, like wood, liquid, smoke, propane, eye and ear protection. So there's a lot of protective pieces that go into that.
Next, we'd like to hear from Chuck Jensen regarding the dissolution of Ames Leasing and Financing Corporation and Planning Committee. Mouthful.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Bornstein, this is an informational item, of course. After a conversation today, anticipating then bringing an action item to the board in February to do this. Little history on this. This journey began a little over a year ago in October of 21, where I came to the board asking for a resolution to start to work to dissolve 3 different entities that had been created many years ago for the college. And these entities date back to the late 90s. And in a lot of ways, these were created for various reasons, mostly for financing purposes, mainly to finance the aircraft simulation building that actually no longer exists on campus. But these entities were created in order to do financing for that project. The entity for the Ames Leasing Corp. That was primarily put in place to purchase the early college academy. Back then, it was the workforce development. They built that building over there on 58, or bought that building over on 58, and it's now the early college academy. But these were all financing instruments that were used to set these entities up. And also then with the, there was a point in time with the planned community, maybe some of you that are familiar with the history of that, which was in the early 2000s. The college embarked upon quite a project to develop the one part of campus here between 47th and 20th, that big chunk of land there. I think even at one time there had been a grocery store proposed on the corner of 20th and 47th. So the college is moving in that commercial development direction. And that kind of came to a screeching halt in 2008 and 9 when the economy changed. And so there again, these entities have continued to stay out there. And so starting last year with that first resolution, that began all the research work that we needed to do to go through each of these entities. And there was a tremendous amount of work going back, pulling up a lot of the corporate documents that were established and these entities were created. And so it's taken a year to do that. So before you, you have in your packet here, I'll be coming to you in February with 3 action items for 3 separate resolutions to address each individually, each of these different entities, which of course are the Ames College Campus Plan Community, the Ames Leasing Corp, and the Ames Continuing Education Authority. And what's unique about all these situations is not only were they created for financing reasons, things like that, but in order to do that, property was transferred into these entities from the college. So we have several parcels of property that are in the names of these entities. And so along with the resolution, you'll see in the language in the resolution was not only to transfer all that property back to the college and then begin the dissolving all those entities with articles with the Secretary of State. Those resolutions do appoint me as the representative to enact those documents, to transfer that property, and then to submit a document to the Secretary of State for dissolution and putting all these entities to rest once and for all. So with that brief overview, I'll stand for any questions. And again, informational item, we'll bring an action item in February. But this really is a process that has been in the makings for quite a while. And we're finally at that point where we can now bring this forward to the board to start to resolve these things step by step.
Thank you very much, because going back to those files, as I have some, I appreciate it, what you've done, and as well as your staff. I know it wasn't this year. So thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you. Yes. We'll see you in February.
I would like to ask Zach McFarland, Executive Director of Marketing Communication, to come up and talk about international and national Marcom awards.
Our point deadline, so we're passing out this so everybody can kind of follow along. We won a bunch of awards. So when we think about marketing communications, but especially marketing, the first P when you're thinking about the first P of 4 is the product, right? And anytime I think about how we can market things at Ames, I come right back to that, and that we have something to market, we have something to communicate. We have a very, very powerful, good product here at Ames. And every time we come to these board meetings and we hear Shannon and Kelly bring up excellence at Ames students, every time we see what's going on in this community, that's affirmed for me. And that makes a lot of the job of communicating what's going on here and marketing what's going on here very easy. I'm particularly blessed in that we have a very good marketing and communications team. This is a very passionate group of talented people who I'm very fortunate to work with. And so when you kind of match a really good story with a really talented group of people who are passionate about their fields, who want to tell that story in meaningful ways, you can get a lot of really amazing things done. We don't do work to win awards, but I believe awards oftentimes can validate the work that you have done, right? We've done the work because it's the right work to do. And then you start thinking, hey, I think it's pretty good. Let's put it out with some of our peers and see what happens. And what we have here is just kind of some of the validation of that work. I'm going to just kind of briefly go through 7 awards that we recently won. And we'll start with Marcom Awards. Marcom Awards are actually international. These are international awards. This year they had over 6,000 people applying for these awards. That's a heavy lift as far as people seeking those Marcom Awards. And this is not an education-based award. A lot of the categories, which I'll show you, was education work being put out in the field of just marketing communications collateral, which comes with a lot of heavy hitters from corporate, commercial industries. The first one is the annual report at the print. This is the only one we won that is in an educational, is specific to education. Annual report. Everybody's seen it. It's pretty awesome, right? Really clearly communicated a lot of data and information. And what you see here is just contributors. This is a platinum award. So this is the highest you can win in Marcom. This is, again, this is the upper 90%, 90. And really, I'd be remiss not to say a lot of people contribute to the annual report, and you'll see in here everybody from institutional research, the foundation, sales division. A lot of people come together to contribute to this. So this is really a kudos to a lot of people at the college who help us put together a very significant publication. Another interesting bit about this is what we've been able to do is take the annual report and really start to leverage this across the community. About 2 years ago, we recalibrated our organizational VIP list. We've been able now to send this and demonstrate aims and its role in the community by leveraging this piece of collateral with that list and letting people in the community see all of that we're doing here. The second award, this is the Gold Award. This is the View Book. The View Book we put together, I think a significant partner for us was enrollment and recruitment. We put this together. This was one of the first View Books we've had in a long time. Significant work on this. And I think it's worth also mentioning it. This isn't a piece of the award, but we were also translated this into Spanish. That has then led us into further translations, which I think is critical, given a lot of the demographics we've served. Recently, we've also done the financial aid packet and the commencement. I don't know if you saw it at commencement, but the commencement program had a Spanish translation as well. And so this is an example of work that we did and is now continuing to have an impact across other pieces that we're producing, especially as we do that for multiple readers. So that's the Gold Award. Next is the video. We've shown a couple of these videos here, but video is just it's an engaging way to visually show what's happening in a lot of our amazing programs. This one was specifically welding. Jeff Klein was the feature. This is a faculty feature, and it also won a Gold Award. If you know Jeff Klein, he's got perfect hair, and he just, I tend to think maybe one strand was off because we didn't get a platinum on that one. So we'll have to go back and make sure he does that right. So we've been doing some amazing video work. I love video. Again, it really allows us to really show the program, show them how, and let people see what they're going to experience. And then the brand refresh, that's another gold one. This is really the whole college. If you remember our whole process in the brand refresh, we're talking about a lot of surveys and focus groups and interviews across the board. So the whole college really contributed. Am I done? There we're back. Thank you. The whole college really contributed to a tagline. And it's interesting to me when I sit here, especially at board meetings, and you hear how many people are saying it here and in the field and students, and then you just hear people say all in. And that really kind of tells you that it's latched on and it means something to people and it really resonates with the group at large. And then social media, Taylor, I will have the whole Mark Hunt team stand up here in a second. This was a specific campaign that really showcased first gen students and faculty and staff. So we really focused in on first gen and really telling those stories in a really exciting medium. Social media is an engaging medium where you can generate feedback and communication and really being able to tell those stories in there and have people engage with that content, I think is very meaningful. And then again, a gold award on that. We moved to NCMPR. That is a community college marketing and communications award. Specifically, we won gold on the website. Hunter's here as well. The website's won multiple awards, right? And I think that again demonstrates the sheer amount of work that went into that. The best note on this particular award, and Hunter, tell me if I'm wrong, but Pikes Peak Community College also submitted for this award, right? And they have Arnie, the aardvark, and they got silver. So so we are the best aardvark in the state. And now it's validated by MCNPR as well, right? And then W3 Awards, another website award, for the web work that was done. I think another thing that's interesting to me is if you look at the breadth of these awards, this is really multimedia. We're here on print, social, web, digital, and it really showcases the talent of the marketing and communications team and that they're cross-discipline. They're taking each of these mediums and doing a really phenomenal job with them. So if I can, I would love for all of the marketing and communications people here just stand up. Maybe we can give a round of applause for the hard work that they've done. Again, it's a blessing to work with these groups. That's all I've got. Any questions?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. Dr. B and Zach, on how notable our progress is in developing a better marketing communications program. And we discussed it at length a number of years ago. And this is really impressive and helps us. And Mark mentioned it when he was up talking, how you don't hear bad comments about AIM across the community. I think a big part of that is because of the better job we're doing in telling our story. It doesn't hurt to have this building here and do other things that get people's attention. But great progress. Good job.
Yeah, again, phenomenal thing.
So Zach did a great job in giving kudos to his team, which I echo wholeheartedly. A great team also needs a leader who is forward thinking, ears to the ground, a good organizer and planner, relies and utilizes people's strengths. And I would just like to thank Zach because certainly without his leadership, we also wouldn't be in this position. So Zach, I know we're going to give you a round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you.
Other comments, questions for Zach?
Thank you.
So as per usual, highlights are in your packets. If you have any questions specific to division's highlights, now would be the great time to ask cabinet members if you have any questions. Hearing none, I'm going to move to the employee report. Are there any supervisors in the audience who have new employees that they would like to introduce? Okay, that concludes the president's report, Mr. Chair.
Well, thank you, Dr. Bornstein. Thank you, Zach. Thank you for any other, Dr. Rothermer and everyone else that did their reports in person today. Thanks to Tonette and Dylan for being here. It was a great meeting, really was. Thank you to everybody. So next, for our part, is reflections and comments from board members about AIMS. So we get to talk about AIMS specifically. And I know some of us usually have something that we would like to tell everybody about Ames. Hear that? Ames.
Impressive to hear of all the opportunities that this campus provides the students to get engaged, make them feel comfortable on campus and involved, and how it turns lives around. It's just really enjoyable to hear those stories.
Else?
It's just reflecting, I've been here a year, so, when I think about this last year and all of the pieces, I think month, it's like a snowball, it keeps growing, and just how amazing everything is, and the team. Very impressive. I would echo Jean's comments in that means something for everybody. And I think Stephanie said it really well a little bit ago. I belong. I think that's a good piece. So, relations to the team.
I echo exactly what Jean and Marilyn are saying. It's amazing. It's nice to see the graduates extremely happy and their parents and friends happy. That was just really nice to see. And as far as the marketing, I was at a South Platte Forum conference, which is all about water and policy, something either from someone from Pinion Environmental said, hey, I heard about Ames and that you have a 4-year degree. So that is someone that's not even close to this community, close to this college. So Ames is getting recognized. You guys are doing a really good job. So I wanted to let you know that you're reaching out and it's working.
Yeah, anyone else? Yeah, I'm always impressed by the atmosphere and the feeling, knowledge that we're a team here. During the reception, I had the opportunity to speak with several folks. A couple of folks who have been associated with in another life, a prior life, that are now here at Ames. And to hear them talk about their impression of Ames and how happy they are to be here, and they're almost like who knew that Ames was the helpful, the engaging, the supportive institution. So it really is. And how happy they are now to be associated with them. So, and then we see some of our past students and that were at our previous graduation, not the last one, but then before that, they came to our reception today, just to visit. And we're here for the meeting. We just came to visit and say hi and let us know they're doing okay. And it's really great. It really is family. Tell me more than just the team, it's a family. Continue to be impressed by that, and I'm proud to be associated with Ames as always. So thank you all for that. It's all because of all that you do. Oh, anyone else? I'll move on then to the assessment of the board meeting. You have before you on your agendas on all of the points, I guess, items that we try to assess at a meeting. What did we learn? Okay, you have those in front of you. Are there any of those that any of you would like to comment? I can look them over. Marilyn.
Question of, did we receive the information we needed? I always find the board packet very completely helpful and being able to request it through that. And so, that's a definite for me. To have enough information to make the decisions that we need to do.
Thank you, Marilyn.
We can spend our time focusing on vision and purpose. And I think that's what we do. The board meeting, especially with, the highlighted students. And I think they do that, represent Ames and everything that you all are doing for everyone. So I appreciate all the faculty and all the staff helping make Ames what it is today.
Thank you. And I would echo those comments on the, excuse me, on the information. You certainly get an incredible amount of information, but it's all for a reason. It's all for a purpose. Specifically, Tonette and Dylan showing that we're talking about budget today. We talk about budget all the time. And we should. Doug does such a good job of keeping us informed as it does him and staff do. And Tonette and Dylan didn't just show up today. They driving by and stop and visit with them over at Ames. We're always looking forward, and the information they presented to us today, I think, is incredibly important for us to start considering today. There's some potentially very serious stuff that means, as we've always said, and we're always trying to be prepared for the future and looking down the road. So it's that kind of information, that kind of looking forward and knowing what kind of information we're going to need here so that we make informed, educated decisions that I appreciate getting. So thank you for all that. There's no one else. Is there someone who would like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Great meeting. Thank you very much. We're adjourned.